Hi, welcome to a digital art tutorial. We're going to get started in pixlr.com. I don't want to waste a lot of time, so hopefully you'll find this helpful. Okay, so we're going to learn how to start a new file and open images. Pretty simple. If we want to, we open the editor, and then if you want to create a new image, you click on Create a New Image. You can change the presets here to anything you want. Or you can just choose the default, hit OK, and you'll get this blank window that you can now interact with any way you want with various tools. But I don't want to do that right now. So I'm going to open an image from my computer, actually several, to demo how to do the first project. And I like the first project because it teaches you how to use a lot of tools in different ways. Okay, so now, and then if you find an image you like online that you want to use, which is where actually all these images came from, you can just right-click on them and choose Save As, save it to your computer, and then you can open it up in Pixlr. So let's go to our next slide here, highlighting images. So in this picture, you can see I have a dotted line around this dog. That means he is highlighted, and I can now interact with him in various ways. To highlight, we're going to use the lasso tool. And this is how we're going to do it. So we're going to click on the lasso tool. I'm going to bring the dog up. Okay, so now I have this lasso tool. I can put it anywhere I want. I'm going to click left mouse, click down, and hold. And then I'm going to go around. Now in other photo editors, there might be better highlighting tools. This is pretty basic. In Photoshop, I could go back and forth highlighting and unhighlighting things at my leisure to get right up close. And I could even go in between his legs and like make it just so he's highlighted and nothing else is. But in this program, we're a little limited, but we'll do the best with what we have. So I'm holding down the mouse until I get all the way around. Now, I'm not going to let go till I get back where I started, and then once I let go, I get this dotted line. Now I can interact with him in different ways. So say I adjusted his color. The only thing that'll be affected is now what is highlighted. So you can see that adjustment. If I go to Edit and Invert Selection, now anything except for what I originally highlighted will be affected. So if I change the color of the background, you can see that changed, but my original, the dog that I highlighted, is not changed. So then I can go back to Invert Selection again, and now I'm back where I started. So I can also go to Edit, Deselect All, and get rid of the highlight. I can go to Edit, Undo, and get my highlight back. And then I could say something like Select All, and it would select the whole picture. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to here. So we talked about highlighting. We talked about selecting the inverse, or invert selection in this program. Now we're going to move an object. We can move it around in the same frame, or we can move it to a new file or frame. And then we can use the move tool to resize things in certain programs. In this one, we're going to do it a little different. So if I click my move tool, I can now move him freely in this frame. Or what I want to do is move him to this frame. And now you see when I did that, I have a new layer. And I'm going to call this the dog layer so I don't get confused later. Because if you're working with 15 layers, it can get a little confusing. I'm only going to be using 3, but still. Now I know my dog layer is on top of the background. And I can move him, I can move him freely in this space. Now I'm going to increase his size by going to Edit, Free Transform. You get these little blue points that you can pick on and move. Now, if I move this by holding down the left mouse and dragging it, you can see his proportions are changing, and I don't like that for this, what I'm trying to do right now. So I'm going to go to Edit and Free Transform again, and I'm going to hold down Shift this time. So now his size increases proportionally. And for our first project, we want something that's, usually kind of small, like some dogs are kind of small. I'm going to make him look really big, like bigger than the barn. And now he looks like he's really close to the viewer. Now, if I go over one of these corners, you see how my arrow changes to a curve shape? Now, if I hold the mouse down left left click down and hold it, I can rotate him. So that's kind of helpful too. So let me do that. And then I'll move him in place and hit enter. Now just to review, we'll do the same thing with the cow. I'm going to close this because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to get this layer and I'm going to highlight them using my lasso tool by holding down the left mouse button and dragging. And I'm going to get as close as I can so I don't have that much erasing to do, but we'll have to erase all the extra background image that we don't want later. Then I'm going to let go, use the move tool, and move them to this frame by dragging and dropping. Then I'm going to go to Edit, Free Transform, and I'm going to hold Shift and make them really small. Oops. And then move them, right about here. You think that size looks good? Enter, and voila. So we have most of our project done. Now we just got to clean it up. So let's talk about that. Resizing images, we covered that. But you can see the text here if you want to pause and read that. About layers. Okay, so layers. Sometimes students get frustrated when they make changes and the wrong layer is affected. You want to make sure the layer you want to affect is highlighted in the layers window to the right of your screen. You can always go to Edit and Undo and then select the correct layer again. And then you can reorder your layers. So let me show you. Right now, layer 2, this is the cow layer. So I can change that. And I have it highlighted so I can move it. Right now the cow is on top, so if I move it in front of the dog, it's going to go on top of the dog. If I switch that by dragging, I'm left clicking to drag this down, let go. Oops. Oh, okay. All right. I can move these layers. Now the dog's on top. So if I move the cow, oops. See what I mean about having the right layer selected? If I pick on the cow and I move it, he'll go behind the dog. Okay. So that can come into play when, you're adding text and you have multiple layers and you want certain things on top of other things, but not other things. So that's why we're starting out with just 3 layers in this project to keep it simple. So you have a couple layers to work with, but it doesn't get too unmanageable at the same time. So I can put that back. Now the cow's on top again, not that it really matters for what I'm doing right now. But anyway, so that's a little about layers. Oh, and then, like, say I have the dog highlighted, again, the same thing. If you adjust something like color, he'll be changed. Whoops. The dog will be changed, but nothing else. And if I say OK, that'll stay. And then if I click the cow layer, I can make him a different color too. Let's see. So, see, depending what layer, it'll only affect that layer. So let me undo that. And we'll look at the next point. Okay, so the eraser tool. This is what will take some time to clean up your image. You get different sizes you can pick from, and you get different styles. You just experiment with the different types, see what you like. Click left, click and hold to erase. And if you have a different editor, you might find using the highlighting tool with the eraser can be helpful. Oh, and this kind of goes along with zooming in. There's a little number down here with a % sign. If you increase this number, you'll zoom in. If you decrease the number, you'll zoom out. You can zoom in more than 100%. And if you do that, your image will start to look kind of pixely, but sometimes you have to work in little detail areas, but then when you zoom back out to what it'll look like when it prints out, it'll be fine. So don't freak out if your image looks grainy when you zoom way in. So we're going to do that right now. So I'm going to change this little % down here to something larger so I can see what I'm doing better. I can even change this window, make it a little bigger if I wanted to. So now I can move this around here, and I'm just going to erase a little bit around the legs so you can see what I'm talking about. I can change the size of my brush here. I can use like a hard edge eraser. Oh, see, I got the cow highlighted. I got to click on the dog layer. And then, so this is the hard-edged eraser. You can kind of see how there's like a real sharp line here. But if I make this eraser, you can see where it's like a softer edge. So you see the difference between here and down here? It's like a little more blended. So if I get in here, I usually use the blended eraser for most things, if I'm trying to make it look like a natural occurrence in the photo. It kind of is like using the blend tool and the eraser at the same time. So see, what I could do is you can take this blur tool, which I have a slide on that too, and see where this edge is sharp. It's supposed to help blend that in, although in this program I don't think it works all that great. But you can retrace just trace along the outside edge here, and it should make that a softer edge. So sometimes, like in Photoshop, you can really see the difference. In this program, though, I think it's good if you just use that fuzzy edged eraser setting, or like brush tip, whatever you want to call it. And then so you just kind of trace along there. Now, if you have to undo something, however long I hold this down for, that's how long the undo will last. So say I do like this whole section around the foot, and then I make a mistake, and I come in here like this, and I'm like, oh no. And I go edit undo, it's going to undo like all of that. So if you want to hold and then release, and then hold and then release, you know, then you won't have to go like all the way back if you mess up. So that's just a little Mrs. Adams tip for you. So I think you kind of get the idea here. Now I'm going to show you one more thing when it comes to erasing that might be helpful. I'm going to zoom way in for this. We're going to go look at the cow. And I'm going to show you about opacity change. That's my next slide here, I think. So we have the blend tool, which I just talked about. And then, let's see. Oh, opacity came before that. So there's a little icon here. You click on this. You can take the opacity of your layer down, which means it's more see-through. So now I can see the background through it. And I'll show you why that's helpful. Some of you might have already kind of figured out what I'm up to. I want to make the fence look like it's in front of the animals. So I'm going to click on the cow layer, pick on this little beads on a string icon here, and then it'll let me see, oops, I already had it highlighted, the opacity. So I'm going to take that down, and he gets kind of ghost-like. But now I can see the fence through there. So if I change this brush to like a smaller size, now I can erase the cow layer right where the fence is. I'm just going to erase that right there. And then when I take the opacity back up, now it looks like, oh, I got a little more to do right here. Now it looks like the fence is in front of the cows. So they look like they're behind the fence. Maybe a little bit right here too. So let me put that back up. Alright, now they're behind the fence. So you can see how if I didn't take the opacity down, I'd have to kind of guess where that fence is, and it might mess up a lot and take a lot longer. But that made it a lot easier just taking that down. You can also turn off the layer, so you can see under it by clicking that box, and then you can click it back. Sometimes that's helpful when you're trying to create a logo in a program like Illustrator. I do that a lot. So you can just go around here and erase. And basically, to finish this project, all I got to do is go in here with my eraser and clean this up. I'll show you a finished image later. I'll add it to the slide presentation when I'm done. But anyways, let's back out of here. 70 maybe. Let me go down a little bit more. There, now we can kind of see the whole thing again. And like I said, I just have to erase around here and it'll pretty much be done. So last thing I want to talk about, we talked about the blend tool a little bit. You can adjust the settings of that. And then adding text. You don't need to add text for the first project, but it'll come up for like the CD and the advertisement. Pretty easy in this program. pretty basic though too. There's more you can do with Photoshop for sure. But anyway, you click on this letter A, click anywhere you want in the space, and type something. Just like you would in Word or whatever. I can move this up here so I can see it. And then you can pick whatever kind of, font you want. I kind of like how it shows you the font before you pick on it. Where's the one I liked? I like this one for some reason. Then you can change the size of it, big or small. And then you can change the style, bold, italic, and the alignment. And then the color. Now the color, whatever color you want, you just pick in the wheel. I'm going to pick red so it shows up. And then, so you pick the color in the big wheel, and then in the diamond, you pick the value of that color. So it can be, pink, or gray, or the bright red. And then you just hit OK. And then I can now move this. Say OK, and then I can move this with the Move tool. But I think that's all I can really do. I haven't figured out a way to make the text curve or anything in this program. I don't even know if you can really add filters to affect this layer. Perhaps. I'd have to play around with it. Yeah, I don't think filters are really going to work on that. But anyway, you can add simple text that way. Last thing, saving. Save often. I know I haven't saved this whole time. So do what I say, not what I do. Save. Just click File, Save, and then it'll default to JPEG. Name it something. Save it as a fairly high quality, just so you don't lose resolution. Say OK. And then, save it to wherever on your computer. And you're all set. And so when I finish the image, I'll add it here, and you can see it in the slide presentation. I'll upload this along with the video, and hopefully this will help get you started in pixel art. Let me know if you have any questions. Good luck, and I can't wait to see what you put together. Thanks!